Welcome to the Old Coins Explorer, the ultimate treasure hunt. Have you ever checked your loose change and wondered if one of those ordinary-looking coins might secretly be worth a fortune? You might be surprised to learn that one of the most common coins, the 1965 Washington quarter dollar, has a story packed with historical twists, hidden treasures, and even some accidental minting surprises that could be sitting right now in your pocket. So grab your magnifying glass and your curiosity, because today we're diving into the captivating world of the 1965 U.S. quarter, a coin that was never supposed to be extraordinary, yet became one of the most talked about in American coin collecting. Let's rewind to the early 1960s. At that time, quarters were made of 90% silver. This had been the standard for decades. But something changed. The value of silver began to rise, and suddenly, the silver in a quarter was worth more than the quarter itself. That meant one thing. People started hoarding silver coins, especially quarters, dimes, and half dollars. By 1964, the U.S. government knew it had to act fast. They couldn't afford to keep minting money that people weren't spending, just stockpiling. The solution? Eliminate silver from circulating coins. Enter the year 1965. This was the turning point. The U.S. Mint began producing quarters that looked very similar to the older silver coins, but were completely different inside. Instead of being 90% silver, the new quarters were made of a clad composition, a sandwich of copper and nickel. The outer layers were cupenical, and the inner core was pure copper. This change brought the coin's value back in line with its face value, solving the silver hoarding issue, at least temporarily. But here's where things get really interesting. The transition from silver to clad coins wasn't seamless. Some 1965 quarters were accidentally struck on leftover 1964 silver planchets. These rare error coins look almost identical to regular 1965 quarters, but are made of 90% silver. They're incredibly valuable. Some have sold for over $7,000 at auction. And the only way to tell the difference? Weight and sound. A regular 1965 clad quarter weighs 5.67 grams. A silver quarter from 1964, or an error-struck 1965 silver quarter, weighs about 6.25 grams. It might not seem like much, but for coin collectors, this tiny difference makes all the difference in the world. Some experts recommend using a precise digital scale to check any 1965 quarters you find. If your coin is heavier than 5.67 grams, you might be holding a fortune. Another clue? The sound test. Drop a silver coin on a hard surface. It gives off a high-pitched bell-like ring. Do the same with a clad coin, and you'll hear a dull, flat thunk. It's subtle, but once you hear the difference, you'll never forget it. The U.S. Mint produced a massive number of quarters in 1965. Over 1.8 billion of them were made. That's one of the highest mintages of any U.S. coin in a single year. Why so many? Simple. To flood the market and stop people from hoarding the older, silver coins. This huge production volume makes finding a rare silver error even more exciting. It's like searching for a needle in a haystack, but one that's worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Another fascinating aspect of the 1965 quarter is that it was the first U.S. coin to fully adopt the clad composition, marking a historic shift in American coinage. That transition reflected not only economic necessity, but also changing attitudes about money and metal value. It was the beginning of a new era, where coins were no longer made with intrinsic, precious metal value. Instead, they became fiat tokens, valuable only because of the trust we place in the system. Despite being so common, the 1965 Washington quarter holds a special place in the hearts of collectors. For some, it represents a nostalgic link to a time of transition. For others, it's a starting point in their numismatic journey. And for a lucky few, it's a treasure waiting to be discovered. Imagine walking into a store, getting change back from a $1 bill, and finding a 1965 silver quarter tucked among the coins. You might not even notice at first, but with a little knowledge, you could spot that glimmer of rarity. Some people ask, how can I tell if my 1965 quarter is worth more than 25 cents? The answer lies in its condition, its composition, and sometimes even its story. A worn, circulated in 1965 quarter, is usually only worth face value. But a well-preserved uncirculated coin, especially one graded MS-65 or higher by professional grading services, can sell for anywhere from $10 to $50. And if it's one of those rare silver planchet errors, the sky's the limit. So, how did these silver planchet errors happen? Well, think of the chaos at the mint during the transition. Huge amounts of silver blanks were still left over from 1964. And in the rush to start the clad coinage, a few of those blanks got fed into the presses with the 1965 dies. The result? Coins that were technically dated 1965, but struck on silver planchets meant for the previous year. These weren't supposed to exist, but they do, and their rarity makes them incredibly valuable. Collectors today love the thrill of the hunt, and the 1965 quarter offers just that. It's not about what the coin looks like. It's about what it's made of. Two coins can be identical in appearance, but vastly different in value. That's what makes the 1965 quarter such an intriguing mystery. It's hiding in plain sight, just waiting to be discovered.